Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you might be. Um, it is Wednesday, the 5th of January, and I'm coming to you from my friend's booth in Oregon, and I'm so grateful to be able to have this space. And and yet, it's pretty slow internet because we're up kind of in the mountains. But my fingers are crossed that all works well. And so I trust that you will um, let me know. And if things are really bad or if something freezes or what have you, that you'll let me know. And do please say hello in the comments so I know that you are here. Again, I don't know why Facebook has done this, but your comments used to show up right kind of in front of me, but they don't do that anymore. So I kind of have to go and look and see. Hey, yay, good, fantastic. Hi, Tracy. Hi, John. So happy that you are here. Um, what an interesting, well, I think it's interesting this always this time of year, right? Because it's a new year and we put old things behind us and we look forward and we make plans and we have big dreams, right? That's kind of what the new year does. And there's a lot of good about that. And there's a lot that actually, kind of in the end, kind of weighs us down. And so I kind of want to address both parts of that. So what I want to get started with really is, you know, we're coming off of a couple of very difficult years, right? Um, for many of us, the last 2 years, 20 and 21, have been stagnant, you know, um, and even years where we felt like we're actually moving backward, like we've lost momentum. We're not just sitting still, but we're like losing ground, right? Um, and it's a super frustrating headspace to be in because we also feel like we don't have any control over it. And we're sort of at the whim of the powers that be, right? Um, and I think no matter your perspective on all of that, I think we could probably all agree that the world in many ways has gone mad, and yet the world has always been mad. It's always been crazy. There's always been something going on, right? It just seems super acute these last couple of years, and we just feel like we're kind of out of control. So the truth is, we can't change the big, giant, messy world, right? And I think the acknowledgement of that is a really great place to begin. Um, but the thing that we can change is our own world, our individual world, our sphere of influence, right? Um, and uh, I posted this meme in a couple of places, both on my own personal page, but also in the group page here. This really great little meme of two creatures talking to each other, and one of them is sort of freaked out with fear about the new year and what's coming, and he's kind of like, "Aren't you afraid of what 2022 will bring? I mean, it's such a terrifying time to be alive in the world." And the other strange little creature says, "I predict flowers." And the other creature says, "Why? How can that be?" And and the other creature says, "Because I'm planting flowers." And for me, that is the sum total of my mindset this year. I'm going to plant flowers, um, literally and figuratively, because I can. I can. I can get my hands in the dirt of, the actual dirt, right? But then also, I can plant good things in my circle of influence, right? So I would just, even though it's a cute little meme, I would just encourage you to think about that concept, right? About what you particularly are going to do in your own world, to make your own world a better place to exist. Um, and I think actions like that are super empowering. They seem so small, but but in the grand scheme of things, they're really quite powerful. Um, because most of us, I think, what do we do in the new year? We have these big dreams and we have make these big plans, and invariably we end up putting too much on our plates, um, and we end up feeling like we failed because we couldn't get to all those big things because they were too big. They were they were the bites were too big, right? I remember my when I was in high school, my friend Jessie and I, every January, we would say to ourselves, this is the year that we're going to get skinny by summer. I grew up in a beach town, right? So this is the year we're going to get skinny by summer so we can wear a bikini. Like that was our goal, right? That we could wear a bikini in summer. And then, of course, by mid January, we were going out for burgers and fries on a regular basis. I mean, we just couldn't grasp that making a change like that to your body requires, you know, small, tiny little changes. Um, so, I think it's just a pervasive thing. We say we're going to do this big thing, and it's just too big for us, right? And so we miss. Um, and so here's a weird piece of advice that I would like to give you about mindset. And as you set out to make plans for the new year, aim low. Aim low. That's right. I said it. I said it. Aim low. In other words, set your sights on very doable things, little bite-sized pieces. And accomplishing those little bite-sized pieces will build your confidence to do the next thing on your list. And sure enough, as you move along, you will look back and say, I did a thing. I made progress there. And that's what we're after. We're just after progress. Gone are the days of thinking that, in a particular year we will arrive. We're just after making progress, right? Um, the other thing I wanted to say is, I'm here at a friend's in Oregon, and the weather, like much of the country, has just been insane. I mean, there have been tornadoes in Franklin, where I left. I left right after this entire day of tornado warnings, or tornado watches. I'm sorry, I understand there's a difference. Um, uh, it was crazy being at the airports. Flights were delayed. Things were canceled. Just like crazy stuff was happening, right? And then when I arrived here, it was snowing in Southern Oregon, right? And really, really windy. And so outside the window in the room where I'm staying is this very formidable tree. Like it's some kind of pine. I don't know trees very well, but it's some kind of pine, right? And so I'm watching this tree outside my window in these fierce winds. I mean, it took down several trees on the property where I'm staying, these winds, right? But I'm watching this tree, this formidable tree, bend and sway in a wind that totally would have knocked me over had I been outside. And I realized that tree is formidable precisely because it has withstood the wind and the challenges, right? That's what wind is to a tree. It's a challenge. The more adversity this tree faced in the form of wind, the deeper and more spread out its roots became, and the stronger it can stand when the winds come. So I'm just thinking about how much you and we need adversity to be able to grow. We need things that push at us, right? And challenge us and challenge us. We just can't grow without it. There was this really interesting experiment that I heard about several years ago where these scientists, these agricultural scientists, were trying to figure out how to protect trees, right? They were trying to and trying to give them a super safe environment in which to live, right, and grow and thereby produce more fruit and all those things. And so they put these trees in a almost like in a glorified tent, where they were protected from the winds and they were protected from elements, and the agriculturalists could control the environment, right? And what they discovered was, after a period of time, the trees just fell over and died. And they realized that they had no root structure. And they had no root structure because there was no wind. There was nothing to push against them to make them dig in and really root themselves and plant themselves, right? So I say that because the objective of the year is to grow, right? It's to get better at what we do. It's to grow. It's to be a little wiser at the end of 2022 than you were at the beginning. And in that growth, right, we're getting better. But we have to have adversity and we have to be challenged in order for that to happen. So I'm just going to check down here and see if y'all have any comments or any such thing. Yeah, aiming low is something I can do. You still have to aim, John. And Yvonne, yes, the journey is the thing. The journey is the thing. It's important to have a destination, but the journey is what our lives are made of. That is true. We don't know when or if we're going to arrive, right? We can't make that determination about our lives, right? But we can take the day that we have and we can move through it, right? And just super, super important. And so in the midst of, the world around us at this time of year telling us that now's the time to think big, aim big. You can lose 30 pounds this year. You can land your first national commercial. You can get yourself an agent. You can make it all happen, right? Take small bites toward each of those goals, knowing that you may not hit those goals at the end of the year, but you can absolutely make progress toward them. Let me come back up here. Yeah, there we go. So I don't necessarily want to belabor this point. Well, except I do want to tell you one other little story. Having to do with like facing the adversity, right? And I know it's not like, what a strange thing to talk about at the beginning of the year, facing adversity, but it's coming. It always does. That's life, right? So when along with not being afraid of adversity, it's like, I would even challenge you to welcome it, right? To welcome it with an attitude of problem solving. Solve the problem. Like, don't let it spin you. Don't let the adversity spin you, but look at it like, here's an opportunity for me to find another way, right? So I want to tell you about what happened to me when I moved across the country. So, you make your plans, right? You make your plans to move. And you kind of have to start somewhere, and you start like, well, I guess I got to rent a truck. And then I guess I got to pick a day that I'm going to actually get in the truck, put my stuff in the truck, get in the truck, turn on the ignition and go, right? You kind of have to pick those days and make those plans and determine then, how many miles is it? How many miles per day am I going to drive? What's my arrival date, right? And you have to then, you're kind of counting on people on the other side of the move where you're going to make sure that they're in line, right, with your arrival. Everything has to kind of fall in line, and because you can only control what you can control, right? So the first thing is, 1 week before we were supposed to pick up our truck from U-Haul called and said, we're not going to have a truck for you. We don't have a truck. And it's like, you don't have a truck? Like, you put in your notice, your apartment's already rented by somebody else now. You have to get out, right? So it's like, wow, you're not going to have a truck for me. Okay, I have to find a truck. I have to go find a truck. That's the problem to solve, right? I got to solve that problem. So I get on the phone, I call Penske, and they have a truck, and they guarantee their truck will be there at the location that you've chosen, and that they said it's available. But it was, excuse me, it was twice as much money. What are you going to do a week before you leave, right? You're going to pay twice as much money because you have to go, you know? So we get the truck. We order a 22-foot truck, right? And then they call us and say, we don't have a 22-foot, but we have a 26-foot. That'll be there for you. And we're like, 26-foot truck? That's huge. That's too much truck. How are we going to drive that thing across the country? And so, like, the day before, we're like, maybe we should get a 16-foot truck. That's probably more manageable, right? So I moved across the country with my ex, right? We shared a truck. We're close friends, all that. A long story. It's another, that's another Facebook Live over at night with wine. So we decide on the 16-foot truck. We go pick up the 16-foot truck, take it over to his place. He loads his stuff onto the 16-foot, brings it over to my place, and we realize there's no way that we're getting my stuff onto that 16-foot truck. Like, it's not happening. And so then here's another problem to solve. What do we do? It's like, do we hitch a trailer to the 16-foot? Do I start throwing things away? Like, what do we do? And so then we decided, you know what, we're going to call and see if they still have the 26-foot. So we do, and we call, and they have it. And so, which means we have to go pick up the 26-foot, drive it over, unload what's on the 16-foot onto the 26, and then return the 16-foot truck, right? So we do all this, right? It's just like a day of like problem solve, like crazy. Don't have time to make judgments. Don't have time to cry in my soup. Don't have time, right? So then all is well. We get the truck. It's a huge truck. It's drivable. And then we are on our way, right? And so just to back up a little bit, sorry, I know it's getting long. Just to back up a little bit, the week before, again, this all happened around the same time, I got a call from my future landlord saying that the tenant who was in the townhome that I'm renting, she got COVID. So she has COVID. So her move is delayed. It's like, well, by how much? Well, I was supposed to move in on the 29th. It was like, well, I think you probably should expect to move in on the 1st, right? So I'm like, okay, here's a problem to solve. How do I do that? We're scheduled to arrive on the 29th. I got to return the truck on the 29th, right? So I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to rent a storage space, drop off the truck, stay at a hotel for 4 more days, rent another truck, hire a couple guys to help me move everything. And then I thought, you know what? I wonder if the garage at the place that I'm moving to, I wonder if the garage is empty. Because if the garage is empty, then I could load everything just into the garage. And then I don't have to get another truck. I just have to get a couple guys to help me move it, right? So anyway, and they agree, right? The tenant agrees, the landlord agrees. So it's like, that's the plan. We're rolling in on the 29th, and we are going to unload the truck into the garage. So we get there on the 29th. Everything goes as planned. We open up the truck, start to, get stuff ready to unload. We open up the garage, and it's full. Her garage is full. Like, I can't unload into the garage. So I text the tenant. I'm like, hey, remember we had an arrangement? And she was like, oh, here she has kind of COVID brain, right? And she's like, oh my God, I should have had the movers check the garage to make sure it was empty. And I was like, yeah, you think? So again, like, the people who were helping me unload were like, how could somebody do that? What? That's just terrible. And I just looked at them and I go, yeah, I don't have time to do this. We have to figure out where we're going to unload. Like, how are we going to solve this problem? So we either need to move her stuff back into the townhome, or I need to call her and say, like, I walked in and the downstairs was completely empty. Or I'm going to call her and suggest that she allow us to move all my stuff into the living room. So it was like, yeah, okay, let's do that. So I called her. She agreed. So then we moved everything into the living room, right? But the whole point of this crazy story. Then I went to a hotel for 4 days, totally relaxed, like I just slept for 3 days is what I did, and then on the first, we moved in. Like I hired a couple guys to move everything to where it needed to be in the house, right? But the whole point of it is facing adversity with an attitude of problem solving. There are many places along the way on that whole moving, escapade where I could have fallen apart. Really, like I could have. And I didn't. Because I knew I had to keep moving forward to get myself to the goal of moving in to a new place in Franklin, Tennessee. Right? So it's like eyes on the goal, and you're going to hit adversity and face those things with an attitude of problem solving. And I'll tell you, you know, I I made it through that in with good cheer, and my life is better for it. I didn't berate the woman who didn't do what she said she was going to do. I didn't write a hideous review of U-Haul. I just solved the problem along the way. And so that is ultimately my advice. Like, aim low, take bite-sized pieces of the year, bite-sized pieces of your goals. Don't be afraid of adversity. Welcome it. Because when you welcome it with an attitude of problem solving, you will get stronger, and you will gain more confidence than you know. It doesn't feel like it in the moment, you know. You're just hanging on like the tree is in the wind, right? But the wind will subside, and your roots will have grown deeper. Um, and then and then to end this, because I'm sorry I'm long, plant flowers in your world. Plant flowers, literally and figuratively. I'm going to plant tomatoes. I'm going to try to grow tomatoes. That's my goal, to keep a tomato plant alive. But then how do you plant flowers just in your, figuratively in your world? Planting flowers makes things lovely and beautiful. And so that's what I would encourage you to do. Um, and then when those times when you get overwhelmed by the craziness of the world and the plans that you've put before yourself, remember that by changing the smaller sphere of your own surroundings, you actually are changing the world. You actually are. Because when all of us do that together, we live in a different world, right? And so I will end there. Aim low, welcome adversity, plant flowers. All right, my friends, I hope this all made it. Let me just check one last little piece to see if, oh, there we go. Yeah. Oh, tamarack pine. Is that what it is? Thank you, Christy. That's fantastic, the tree. We're talking about the tree. That is good too. And yes, you know what, Sonia? I am planting basil. I'm planting tomatoes and basil. And that's it. So anyway, there we go. I will see you next week. And I wish you all a great day and a beautiful remainder of your week. So talk soon. And if you have any questions, comments, go ahead and leave them on this thread, or feel free to direct message me, and I will get to you. All right. Mwah. Talk to you soon. Bye.